Here at the Proact Stadium today, it's my pleasure to reacquaint with a man that I've known for a long time, virtually throughout his career, a former player in South Yorkshire, a goal-scoring striker, currently a physio. He's been a physio for a number of years. Chesterfield is his latest club. Rodger Wylde.
Well, referees, to be fair, like to be in charge, and you're not allowed to go on until they give you the shout. But I have to say that head injuries do cause me a little bit of concern, especially with referees, because what you find a referee does is a player will get injured, it will go down, and the referee will want to go and book the player instead of looking at the injured lad, waving you on, then going booking the player. And I've had this conversation many times with referees. Get the physio on, then go and book the player. And
the instruction's very clear, I think, to referees. If there's a head injury or
yeah,
suspected
it
head
is.
Injury, no delay, physio straight on.
That's right, it is very clear. But sometimes you'll also, and this does annoy me as a physio, a player will go down with a head injury. The referee will go to him and he'll say, yeah, he says he's okay. But that's the first thing anybody says when they've got concussion. Yes, I'm fine. You know, so I always say to the fourth official, the referee should get you on, then it's the responsibility of the physio, and he's in the clear.
You have a procedure
yeah,
to check
exactly.
out whether in fact
exactly.
they are concussed or not.
Yeah.
Although I think the fan would say there are too many stoppages, players feign injury.
Not for a head injury. You shouldn't. You should stop the game for a head injury. They're not very often anyway.
But do not players take advantage of that sometimes?
They do sometimes, yeah. But I do think the rule, it's been going a long time now, that the player has to go off. Whereas before, a few years ago, when I first started being physio, the player didn't have to go off. He could just get treatment and stay on. But that's really has stopped a lot of players going down unnecessarily, from my perspective. Yeah.
It's a hated ruling though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where players have to go. It looks so petty.
Yeah.
Why can't they just be treated and get going? But as you say,
yeah.
the fact they have to go off, albeit only for 10 or 15 seconds,
yeah.
that could be the 10 or 15 seconds when you concede a goal.
Well, exactly. And a big example of that was when Chesterfield were at Wembley just the other week, when big Evo went off with a cut. While he was off, they had a corner and scored. Now, this is a good example of why don't we have blood substitutes like they do in rugby.
You raise an interesting point there. I've never heard this raised before. Blood substitutes. Can you just enlarge on that a bit?
Yeah. Well, that was a big example. It was a big game. Evo got caught. All right, it wasn't intentional, but we were penalised because he was going for a ball because he's a defender, and he gets a cut eye in the process, has to go off, and he's off for a few minutes. But the thing was, they had a corner immediately, which is when you need him, your big centre-half, your big major centre-half there. And while he was straight away, as soon as he'd gone off, they scored. So if we'd have had a blood substitute there, he could have gone on, taken his place, and that might have stopped the goal. I think we should have blood substitutes in football.
Very, very interesting point, Rodger, which is precisely why we're talking to you.
Yeah.
And you have a view of the game that goes way back to the 70s when you first became a professional.
Yeah. I used to have a great relationship with referees. I was only sent off 9 times.
Well, that's another reason why we've chosen to speak to you. You kept a record of it then.
Yeah. I could never understand how Gary Lineker, and I apologise, Gary, I know we don't know each other, but I apologise anyway in advance, how Gary could never have been booked in his entire career. Which is admirable and great, great role model, unlike myself, who was booked numerous times and sent off 9 times. But when you've got big centre-halves kicking lumps out of you, it's very difficult not to react sometimes.
Yeah, well, most of your sendings off for reacting?
Well, possibly, yeah, possibly. I can't remember most of them now.
In what way?
Probably moaning at the referee or revenge, because I could never tackle anyway, so,
So you'd hit out at whoever...
Well, you'd probably go in a little bit harder, or try to tackle somebody who'd been kicking you, and just to even things up a little bit.
But you got 1 or 2 for dissent then.
Yeah.
What you said to the referee.
I always remember one. He booked me. It was at Hillsborough. he booked me and he said, "What's your name?" And we didn't have names on our back in those days. And I said, "It's Wylde." I said, "Do you know how to spell it?" Because it's spelled Wylde, not as you would normally spell it. And he was booking me, and then he sent me off for being cheeky. I couldn't believe it.
And yet they say back in those days you could banter with officials
more
than you can now.
Yeah, you could do. Some were quite good, really. Yeah, you could.
Any spring to mind? Neil Midgley crops up quite a lot as a referee who was well respected. Who'd have a little bit of a dialogue. Yeah,
they did, and they used to accept a little bit. If you moaned about a decision, they would have a little go back at you, and then that'd be to be forgotten, a bit like it is in the dressing room, But I think nowadays they're probably being scrutinised too much. You've got all this lip reading on with television. They're there all the games, and they didn't used to be, but they are now. And so I suppose referees have got to be pedantic.
Yeah. Is that for the better?
Not really. I don't think so. No, I think referees are probably, I probably shouldn't say this, frustrated footballers who couldn't make it in the game. But
at least they tried, because you get the criticism that, they've never played the game, so they don't understand it. But surely that's not right.
Well, no, I wouldn't say they don't understand it. They probably don't understand the footballer. They understand the game, but probably not the footballer. And so they've got to apply these rules, and sometimes footballers try to. Footballers are like schoolboys. They try to. If you're told you can't do this, you try to do it. And footballers are like that. We're just overgrown schoolboys, or were, and still are, to be fair.
Yeah. There's a case in point. You're an example. Yeah. I won't ask your age, but you're probably a bit older than you look, or you behave.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Saying I was playing a long time ago in the 70s. Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah.
But you retained a sense of humour about the game, and we all need that.
Yes.
And as you say, doesn't seem to be that dialogue between referees and players now.
No.
But is the standard? It's professional at the top level anyway. Referees are getting paid reasonably well.
Yeah.
Maybe not enough for the responsibility they have.
Well, for me, football has now become more of a. The result is more important, and getting everything right is really important, because I've always said that any footballer, any manager will accept any decision so long as it's right. Even if it goes against them, if it's right, they will accept it. If it goes against them and it's wrong, they don't accept it, and that's when you get this dissent of decisions. And I think it's so difficult for referees. I could never understand anybody wanting to be a referee or a linesman. Why? Because it's impossible. And I think they should get a lot more help than they actually do.
When you say help, do you mean video technology?
From up in the stand, yeah. How difficult would it be to say, yes, that was offside, that was a goal, that wasn't a goal, that wasn't offside?
What about the delay factor, loss of momentum?
Well, this is what everybody says, but would people put up with a game a bit like American football? It's 4 quarters of 15 minutes. That game can last 3 hours. Now, if it was
the hell out of me, but I know a lot of
well,
people.
No, I actually quite like it, but you never get a wrong decision in American football. Not one wrong decision.
Well, there wouldn't be in our football if you were prepared to wait long enough. But are we prepared to wait until midnight?
Would you wait? No, but would you wait 10 minutes extra? At the end of the game to make sure you got all the major decisions right.
Surely it would be unacceptable to have a 10-minute delay during a game.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the compound effect of each major decision, like an offside or a goal. I'm not talking about a throw-in, on the halfway line, but a throwing down there where they've got a long throw, a player who can throw a long ball in, which can result in a goal, if that shouldn't be.
Okay, so you'd like to see it explored?
I would, yeah. I'm sure fans would put up with the game lasting 10 minutes extra or a few seconds to make a decision right, yeah.
Okay, so but you quite honestly admit you'd never be a referee, never wanted to be a referee, never wanted to be a referee, but it's said to me by quite a few people in football that we need players to become referees or ex-players.
Yeah.
Do you subscribe to that?
I think you get some that do. I know some that have done it.
Steve Baines.
He did. Yeah, and I played against him as a player a few times. And
he'd have kicked you.
Yeah, he was one of those players, along with Mick McCarthy, that used to kick you. Yeah. But if that's what they want to do, yeah, that's fine. Some people would want to do that, but I think you'd get 90% that wouldn't ever want to be referees, ever. It's so difficult.
So in that sense, then we've surely got to encourage those who do want to become referees not dish out so much abuse and criticism to them.
Yeah, I suppose so. Really, that's a good point.
Lots of debate now about the way parents behave on the sidelines, the abuse they can dish out, the abuse the referee's getting. Is that a modern thing? Did that happen when you first played?
To be perfectly honest, we didn't have the infrastructure as a kid to play all these academy games. I would have loved it, but we didn't have it. The first time I ever really played in any organised leagues was playing for the Sheffield Boys, and I was 15 then. Yeah. Before that, it was just school, intermittent games at school. But so I was never part of my dad standing on the halfway line and shouting at referees, which I know they do now. But I know I wouldn't like that. I wouldn't be that parent. No.
No, you wouldn't be that parent, but they are out there. They're being controlled now. Yeah. Is that the right thing?
Well, I think I mean, subconsciously they are trying to manipulate the referee or influence the referee's decision. And I mean, nobody likes getting shouted at and being told that they're doing the thing in a wrong manner. I mean, if your cameraman started shouting at you now and said, "Alan, this interview is rubbish. Can't we ask some better questions?"
This time, he usually waits till we switch off.
Yeah,
and tells me what I've done wrong.
So you might be influenced then to change the questions.
I might be intimidated.
Exactly.
And surely young referees are intimidated.
I'm
by
sure
that,
they are.
because human nature dictates that.
Well, they used to say that about Kenny Dalglish. Kenny Dalglish used to try to intimidate referees. And that did help Liverpool in their massive heyday in the 80s, yeah.
You've served many a manager, many a character across many years, Rodger. You've stood on many touchlines and you've seen the theatrics. You've heard managers get aerated. Is there a bit too much of that?
Oh, I think fans love to see the enthusiasm from managers, and I think they expect that. Personally, I would never want to be a manager. I wouldn't want to be as a manager, same as I wouldn't want to be a referee. But I couldn't be like that. No. But I think it's expected, and I think managers react like that because they're frustrated. They're wanting players to do well. They want them to deliver on the pitch everything that they've tried to put over to them in training. So yes, I think it's a natural reaction, but I do think fans want that. If you've got a manager that just sat there and didn't say anything and was passive through the game, I don't think that would look good in the eyes of the fans.
It's all part of the showbiz though, isn't it? What's expected of managers to parade on the touchline for image. Shouldn't they be back where they were when you played, back in the stand in the director's box?
From a game perspective, where they can see everything, because you can't really see a great deal down on the touchline, you can see everything better from a higher viewpoint. But don't you think that managers now will get on further because of how they
project themselves?
Yeah. It's an image. Like it's an image. Football's all about image.
But that's false, surely.
But it doesn't matter. You've got to. I'm a big believer in image. You've got to.
You wouldn't think so, would you?
No, you have. I created an image on the field when I was a player, and I quite.
Shirt outside the shorts.
Socks down, things
hair,
like that. Yeah. That was the image I wanted. It was a bit more. I think I'm a frustrated rock star, to be honest. I always wanted to be a rock star, not a footballer. But so football was my only path for that. But you have to create an image. If you don't create one that you want, you get one anyway. Yeah, you get lumbered with one. Rodger, it's been a great pleasure talking to you. Really enjoyed that. No problem. Thanks, Alan.